Welcome everybody to the November general meeting. My name is Shannon Barnes, for those of you that don't know, and I am with the Homeless Coalition, and I will be your facilitator for today. As I said before, if you're able to, go ahead and turn on your videos so that we can see your faces as we have this conversation with you. Also, make sure that you are muting your mics and you sign into the chat box. Remember, if you need to leave early for any reason, this meeting is being recorded and will be placed on our YouTube channel for you guys to reference as needed. So I'm just going to go ahead and hop in. That way we can respect everybody's time. So the purpose of this meeting today is to really evaluate how effective the new coordinated entry process is since the changes and updates have been implemented. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my colleague, Nathan, and so we can go ahead and get started. Again, I will be monitoring the chat. So if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns that you would like to share with him as he's speaking, go ahead and do so, and I will bring that to his attention. So Nathan, I will turn it over to you.
Hey, thanks. Appreciate it. Hope everybody's having a good day. So yeah, I wanted to talk about the coordinated entry process, the new coordinated entry process, and how that's going so far. I know that we're just now starting to hire some of the folks that were needed in this process as well. But many of you in this room may have taken the training that Charlotte and I have given about the highlights of the new process and then what's expected of the housing case manager and the primary point of contact. And in that training, we also cover how direct client service funds can be used to help with document obtainment, transportation for housing, and we talk about the new folks being hired into different agencies who will fill the roles of the in-reach worker and more support and outreach, as well as the shift in navigation roles and responsibilities. Navigators are now the mobile assessors, and so they'll be doing things on the front end mostly, getting folks ready for critical document obtainment, and those sorts of things. So that was all covered in the training that Charlotte and I have given to many of you in the room. And if you all haven't gotten that training yet or interested, please let me know, and we would be happy to do that with you and your team. So with that, for the folks who have questions or want to discuss anything about that, I'd be happy to field those questions now, or if any of my colleagues want to add anything about the new process and things that I may have missed, I can do that as well. Well, I will say that I have noticed that Charlotte and I have noticed that communication is improving in CAS, and we're seeing that more case managers and primary points of contact are communicating about setting up the housing match and are actively engaged in helping the client connect with the housing case manager. Even seeing some virtual intakes being done, which is really cool. So we're seeing some very, very good improvement in this new process. So I want to acknowledge that as well. Curious to hear folks' feedback or ideas or comments about the process, etc.
Nathan, it was, well, I guess you already addressed, but it says in the chat, is there going to be another training?
Yes, I mean, Charlotte and I are offering trainings to each kind of team of case managers and your team unit. I think we would like to get together with your team and your unit within your agency, for housing case managers, shelter workers, outreach teams, and we'll do our Zoom training with you. And I would be happy to do another one with you if you've already done one and you need some more support on that. I would encourage you to also jump into my office hours every Monday and Friday, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m., and we can discuss coordinated entry process there if you have questions. I will say I am not quick to respond to emails, so if you've emailed me about an issue with this, it may take me a minute to get back to you through email. So those office hours are beneficial in that sense as well, but you can always reach out to me in an email and mark it as high importance, and I will look at those first and make sure we can get another training schedule for you and your team if you would like to go over the training again.
Okay, and then she added to that, when needing to obtain financial assistance for housing, how do case managers access those funds?
Sure. So that's primarily direct client service funds, or within your own housing service agency, right? So some housing service agencies and housing case managers are able to access funds within their own program to pay for things like deposits and application fees. But if you're not able to, direct client service fund is the best way to do that. If your agency is able to front the cost for those things and be reimbursed the following month. And I'd be happy to explain more about direct client service funds for folks who may not be familiar with that.
Does anybody else have any questions for Nathan and his team? Nathan, I would kind of like to know, I guess, like the expected outcomes versus the current outcomes. Like, are we meeting the goals that we were wanting to meet with these changes?
I think it's too early to tell, but I think it's trending in the right direction. Some of the bigger things in this shift are culture shifts as well within our community. So one being the idea that everybody should be engaging in obtaining critical documents for somebody, no matter what your role is with that client. If you're engaging with that client, you know they're going to be around. If you have the ability and your agency has the ability to obtain critical documents, that should be something you engage in, because we recognize that those are important tools to help somebody get housed. And we want to have our folks have the best tools they can, right? So critical documents and obtaining those kind of ubiquitously across the system is something of kind of a culture shift and a mindset shift that still needs to take place in our community and be embraced. So some of the other bigger changes as well, like getting more outreach workers, and I know PNS has started to hire, and that's a good sign, and DRC as well. So getting more staff in place. I think when we put more things in place into the process, as well as see those culture shifts begin to demonstrate with numbers and data, we'll have a better idea of how this process has impacted our ability to house folks faster. But I think initially it looks very promising. Seeing the increased communication from folks in the process is a very good sign. And really at the end of the day, it's about getting our folks housed faster and being client-centered. So that's the main goal with all these things that we're doing. And we'd be happy to do as many trainings as we need to, or as many talks and discussions so people feel good about this and engage in the process and understand it.
So I'd like to hear from everybody on the call. How satisfied are you with the overall functionality of the coordinated entry system? And you can feel free to unmute yourselves or throw it into the chat. I see nothing. Everybody's good with it? We're good? No comments, questions? I cannot believe that. I know as soon as we hop off, somebody's going to email me something. I feel it is more user-friendly. All right. Okay. That's always a plus. Anybody else? I'm okay with how things are going. Okay.
Yeah, and also as well, if people feel like the things they want to address may be better suited to a smaller environment, always welcome to call me. We can chat on the phone, or we can do our office hours as well. If people have other ideas and thoughts they feel more comfortable maybe sharing in a different environment um, as well about what's going on. We definitely want to hear your thoughts and your opinions, because you're the ones who do this work and do it every day. So it needs to be centered around what you all are experiencing and going through.
Okay. Yes, I will. I'm sorry, monitoring the chat. They asked if the question can be repeated. All I said was, how satisfied is everybody with the overall functionality of the coordinated entry system with the new updates and everything? And I will give you, I do not use it. Okay. All right. Well, let's see. I will need it. I think the transition to CAS system is definitely making things easier for me, or for coordinated entry, at least on my end. That's always good. Thank you for that input. CAS is helpful for communicating with case managers from other agencies that work with my client. Very good. We got another one. I do like that we are able to add more notes in CAS that everyone who has had contact with the client can see. It makes communication easier. Right. So I'm seeing a lot of what you were saying about the communication, Nathan. If you are unsure if you have access to it, we can definitely help you with that as well. Anybody else?
I will bring up one thing that it's probably been a the other part of the new coordination system that we haven't really focused on is the diversion. We expected to see a lot more diversion in on the front end with the new system, but what we haven't had yet is a lot of the staff that were going to be providing that service. We had additional mobile assessors that were going to go to DRC and Presbyterian Night Shelter that I think is just coming on board, about to come on board right now. And the same thing for all the in-reach workers that were going to Presbyterian Night Shelter, Salvation Army, Arlington Life Shelter, Safe Haven. That focus piece of getting them diverted before entering into the rest of the system to actually be housed through our own house and dollars is the one thing we really want to emphasize, but we know that has kind of stagnated, and we don't have that happening at the rate that we would prefer, because that's the fastest person to end someone homelessness is in the beginning, is not to allow them to become homeless in the first place, really. And so, like, it's not at what I'm looking, at least one of those who are using our direct client service funds, we're not at a good level. We're just basically average of what we've been in the last 8 months since April, which is like 15 people maybe at the most getting diverted a month. We're a little bit less than that right now. Well, in October, we did 17. So that's about what we've been doing. That has not changed. And we would like to see that to really uptick to 20 to 30 be nice. And we hope with additional staff on the front end that will happen. That will help create more flow in the shelters, less burden on the rest of the community, trying to house people there. Or the ones who get diverted, people who most likely not can be housed through our system, that they stay homeless longer. So hopefully that we see a change there.
Yes, thank you, Anthony. I don't know why I didn't talk about diversion as much as we focus on diversion. I don't know why it just flew right over my head, but that's such an important piece of this new process too, right? I mean, ideally, everybody should be a diversion expert in our community. So that's another culture shift, another, something that we need to keep embedding and uplifting in our community. So we see those changes over time. Because diversion is the first thing that we should all be doing with folks. So thank you.
Does anybody else have anything to add?
I do.
Go for it.
Since we're asking asking questions, I was wondering how many people on this call feel comfortable with the process of trying to divert a client from entering our system.
If you don't feel like talking, there are reaction buttons at the bottom. You can do a thumbs up, you can do a thumbs down, you can do a clap. Let us know how you're feeling. Throw it in the chat. I'm seeing very few thumbs up. So diversion is definitely something that people need some training on.
Oh, I saw the chat.
It says True Workplace case managers are trained in diversion and we're comfortable with that process.
And that's kind of the one place that's doing it. That's
Yeah.
why we need more places to do it. That's why we need it. And I mean, when they're in Pressway Night Shelter, the person's coming in that night. When we have their in-reach workers there, our job is for that in-reach worker to not have them stay there that night. Our job is he's new to homeless. Don't let him enter our system. Do your best to divert him back to families or different avenues, if possible. We don't want people entering into homelessness. That's what we need to avoid that. And True Workplace is probably the only place that really does it. If I look at the 17 that was done, I would say probably 15 are from there. We need the mobile assessor, street outreach teams doing diversion, and the people at the front door of every shelter that night. If someone's new coming in, try to get them out. That should be the goal. If you can't, then we'll work on next steps after that. But that's the goal of anyone entering our system. Don't let them enter our system.
And sometimes it may take a day or two.
Yeah, it won't. Yeah, so you might not be able to divert them that night, but.
And sometimes you start the conversation with the folks that you're meeting with, and they need time to walk away and think about possible options. That was the case that Nathan and I found at the overflow shelter back in the spring, but we were able to successfully divert a nice group of folks. It may not have been tons, but I would say Nathan or Anthony may know the numbers, maybe under 50. Does that sound about right? Or in the 40s? But that's a lot of folks if you were thinking about space and the money spent and the trauma that they would experience by staying in shelter. So I think every person diverted is a huge impact for the folks and less impact on our system.
Yeah, if I'm right, the last time I looked, it's $45 a day. I think that's what we calculated in the past. That it costs them to stay in the shelter versus a bus ticket that might be $100 or Uber. We've done Ubers we spent like $130 on an Uber once because there was no bus route to get to that person where they need to go, but it was some small little rural Texas city, and we Ubered the person there. That $130 was a better expenditure than having to stay in the shelter for 4 days, which would have came out the same amount of money.
I think a lot of the issue too is people don't really know how to start those conversations. Do we maybe have a script or something that we can give folks just to help start with that conversation? I think maybe just having a guide to go by will even help people feel a little bit more confident with that.
We do. We actually want to set up some trains for it too. But right now, when you're in ETO, depending on which project you are, you'll see a crisis assessment pop up. That's usually the first form you should be filling out. And the crisis assessment itself is basically a script. It's not meant to be. When you open it up, you'll see a bunch of questions, but there's not a place to actually where you respond to it. It's just language of how to walk through and talk to people. There's a couple places that you do respond. There's some dates that you put in there. There's a yes, no little box you check. For the most part, it's just asking a person where, why are they homeless, and looking for different avenues to get them out of their system. Just how it's meant to be a form to teach you how to have a conversation with someone and try to problem solve them with them. So, I mean, in a perfect world, you wouldn't want to be looking at the form while you're talking to someone. But it's good to look at the form to get the language down, and that's something that can be handed out too.
Awesome. So in the chat, it says, is there a limit on the amount that can be spent for someone to get to family and friends?
I don't know if have you seen a limit? Do we have a limit on that? I don't remember. I know it's $1,500 limit for moving someone into expenses. We paid for plane tickets if a bus couldn't get to somewhere. I mean, this was someone going to Puerto Rico, so there was not buses don't drive across water, so the plane ticket was the only option. We've done that, and that was for a family. I think that was for 3 people. I think it was a mother and 2 children, if I'm correct. So we've done things like that. I mean, we say bus, but we mean transportation. That's why we do Ubers. We do train tickets. So if a train's going to drop them off, they can get on the train. The train's right there, close to downtown. Or downtown right there. They can get on there and take a train home if they need to. So there's always different options.
In working with domestic violence victims, I'm a lead advocate, victims advocate. I always try to divert my clients as far as like finding other family or friends they can stay with. I have a hard time sometimes getting them into safe haven because there's usually not enough beds or they don't meet the criteria. So in those cases, I almost have to resort to, referring them to the shelters. So that's kind of the problem I have if I can't get someone who's a domestic violence victim in safe haven. But I do try to divert a lot of my clients.
Yeah, and that should be the goal of everyone. It's really what we ask for one of the main things for the InReach workers that we put out there when we got those additional ESG funds. Was for diversion. I mean, there was that and connecting people into housing too. We knew there was for the overnight clients that their ability for housing case managers to connect with that client was very limited for overnight clients. Navigators weren't always able to get into shelters all the time. So it was easier for the individual agencies to hire their own, essentially navigator. That's kind of what the InReach worker is, to connect those clients. So if they're not diverting, then they're connected. And that's the CAS system in itself. Setting up that the online virtual housing intake and working with that housing case managers to connect with that client. And even that's happening now, which is great, even without the InReach workers being there. But what's not probably happening at a really high uptick is the diversion piece.
Yeah.
Thank you. Does anybody else have anything to add before we move on? I see nothing, so I appreciate all of that. If you have anything that you can think of, please throw it in the chat or email anybody on the coordinated entry team, Nathan, Charlotte, Anthony, and they can definitely assist you. So we have been reviewing evictions filed from August 6th to October 6th. Is that right, Kimberly? And found out that about 170 eviction filings were on people who were once assisted in our system or are currently being assisted in our system. So we've been working with contacting these individuals and programs as needed to see how we can offer access to prevention resources or further connect with their current program offerings. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that, but I'm actually going to turn it over to Kimberly so she can give you guys some heads up or some information on that. So Kimberly?
Like Shannon said, we have been monitoring the eviction information that we get from the county. The last time we kind of dug deeper into the eviction information was from April 6th, I think, or April 1st maybe, until August 5th. And in that situation, we only found around 40 to 50 folks. So we have seen a major uptick in clients that, you know, COVID and not being able to provide or being able to financially support themselves increase from August to October. I will also say that there was a huge uptick in eviction filings, so that, you know, we have to take that piece into consideration too, that there was definitely a larger number filed. So perhaps that's why we're seeing some of the increased numbers, like Shannon said, that have either once accessed our system or currently are accessing services in our system. And so, you know, before you can, if we're able to get in touch with those folks and do prevention before they try to enter the shelter and we get to the diversion piece, that would definitely be a positive thing as well. So we just want to make sure that you guys are aware of prevention resources. If you need help with prevention resources and getting your clients connected, we definitely want to do that. I know I visited with a few properties last week, and they actually held like a pizza party for their residents that were behind on rent, and actually helped them submit county CARES Act applications for funding. So, you know, I'd encourage either you or have your client encourage them to reach out to their landlord and see if they have resources available, or if they're willing to submit the application for them or help them complete it, or whatever that looks like. There are also several local prevention resources, and we just want to make sure that you guys are armed with that information. We can certainly get that out to you with the contact information and how to submit that if needed. And then we also want to make sure that you guys are aware of the CDC moratorium, or declaration, I should say. There is no more blanket eviction moratorium. If a client is struggling to meet their rent, they can avoid eviction, and they are able to file the CDC declaration at any point in their eviction process. So even if they've been filed on, if their case has gone to court and they have won, if the property won, they can still file the declaration and stop the eviction process at that point. And then the property is no longer able to file the writ and have them set out or continue with that process. So you want to make sure that they have access to that. The requirements for that declaration is that they have experienced a loss in income, have experienced an increase in medical expenses, and they have to provide proof. Well, no, I say that. They do not, it's the declaration doesn't say that they have to provide proof, but they have to declare. So by signing this form, they have to declare that they've attempted to access prevention funds of some sort, and that if they were evicted, it would be a result of them becoming homeless. And so just by signing that and presenting it to your landlord, and also presenting it to the court in which the eviction was filed, it will halt the eviction in its tracks. So would this include evictions for lease violations? No, this is only for monetary. But if they're not able to pay rent, all properties are able to evict for lease violations. But I would encourage you to, I don't want to get like too in depth into landlord engagement, because I think there's some things on the horizon with in conjunction with general meeting for 2021. But I will say that we have rolled out mediation services. We actually conducted our first one last week, and it went really well. The property was very receptive to that. The clients were very receptive to that. And I would say it was a very good outcome. So just know that we're working on additional resources. So, okay, someone said they need that. I'll put my email in the chat, and you can just email me, and all I need is like a brief kind of description of what's going on. I'll definitely try to resolve the issue between the landlord, between us as well. So, you know, other options might be, maybe it's not a good, where the client is living is not the best fit for them housing wise. That's okay, we understand. But let's try to get them rehoused without adding any additional barriers to housing. So I know that, I think I saw Dylan Wood on here from DRC. We successfully rehoused one of his clients by terminating the lease in a proper way that wouldn't have any negative effects on the client. We've done that with a couple of other folks. I know we've done it for Recover a Resource a couple of times. So that's kind of one of my big roles here is the communication between client and case manager and landlord. If any of you don't know, that's my major background is property management. It's the world I come from. I just joined the Homeless Coalition in February, so we're actually getting kind of close to a year, which doesn't seem that long at all. But I had 14 years experience in property management, so I know a lot of these property management staff and management companies. I have relationships with them prior to coming here. So, and I also know all the back doors of like the lease agreement and things that us and your clients can ask for that perhaps a landlord isn't going to tell you that they can do because it doesn't benefit them the most. But if we ask for it, they have to do it. So we can get creative in things that we ask for, and really just trying to educate them on our population and trying to make the best out of the situation for both parties involved. I try to be middle of the road, but if your client needs advocated for because they're being treated unjustly or wrongly, I will definitely stick up for that as well. As far as legal aid needing, I don't know if you guys are aware, but you are now able to refer your clients to legal aid. There was some funding that made that possible. And so we can make sure that you guys have the contact information for legal aid, and you yourself can specifically refer them for services with legal aid. So that's probably going to be a little bit faster than you telling them, hey, reach out to legal aid. I'm trying to think what else. So our landlord engagement program is really just a partnership. And so we offer a lot of benefits to landlords if they choose to partner with us. I always plug, if any case managers or agencies or anybody have a good working relationship with a landlord or property manager, to let me know. I would love to connect with them and talk to them more, and the benefits that we can offer for them already accepting and working with your clients. And just know that they have support, which is something in the past that has not been available to them. So most of them are really appreciative and excited about that. Does anybody have any questions about, I saw a question about legal aid. There isn't a form, you just have to make the referral, and the contact information is on the legal aid website, and the agency or case manager just makes the referral of the client information. Does anybody have any questions about prevention, mediation? I'm here to support client struggles. If, our last mediation was just, our client was just not getting along with property management, period. So we're here to support you and your clients in any of those capacities and beyond, you know, whatever we can do to keep them housed and keep them housed successfully. I can also put in the chat a really good tool. I know the lease agreement can be super lengthy. And so for, you know, us, general population, it can definitely be hard to decipher. And so for some of your clients, it can be even harder to decipher. So the Apartment Association actually put together a video, and basically it just gives a high overview of each paragraph of the lease and just the important parts of those paragraphs, and really kind of explains in simple language the meaning of those. So I always try to arm case managers with that. And then of course, feel free to, if the client has the ability to watch it online, you know, on a tablet or cell phone, I would pass it on to them as well. It really helps explain. But again, use me as a resource if you have any other questions about the lease agreement. There is another lease agreement that is put out by TREC, which is Texas Real Estate Commission. It's pretty similar, but it's just not as detailed. I am familiar, but I'm no way like a guru on that one, but we can get through it together if you have a lease agreement with that as well. So, and then we also have a lot of other resources that we can reach out to, like the tenants union, if we need to get further clarification or anything like that. I'm just here to connect those housing supports with you guys and offer you whatever help is needed. And know that you guys aren't alone and aren't expected to know all the ins and outs of housing and renting and leases and all of that good fun stuff. So.
Thank you, Kimberly. Does anybody have anything to add or anything else? Well, it looks like we are going to get done with this general meeting fairly early because we don't need to meet for the sake of meeting. So let me give you guys a few announcements. So the annual awards nominations, they are due Thursday. So please get those in if you have not done so yet. Our Housing 500 Challenge, again, we are trying to house 500 individuals and provide them with welcome home baskets. As of now, well, as of yesterday, we have housed 152. We are also looking for some success stories. So we know they're out there because case managers are coming to pick up welcome home baskets. So if you have a good success story, please share that with us so we could share it with everybody else. We'd love to hear those. And again, if you are needing a welcome home basket for somebody who's newly housed, feel free to email me. I'll put my email in the chat right now, but it's shannon@ahomewithhope.org. And we can get that scheduled for you. Also, there will be no general meeting in December. We do not have general meetings in December. That's what we've traditionally done, and we are going to stick with it. So you'll get a free month off. And then does anybody have any announcements or anything that they would like to share that has to do with their agency? I'm not hearing anything or seeing anything in the chat. So remember, this meeting will be posted on our YouTube channel and you can access it from our website should you need it.
Can I jump in? Sorry.
Absolutely.
So if you all have folks who could take advantage of Rapid Exit, clients who can get out of homelessness quick and just need their rent paid for a month and their deposit paid, please refer them to Rapid Exit. They need referrals for families and singles. And that's Gina Young, Julia Chapman, not Gina. Sorry, Gina, if you're on the call, I'm going to blow your name up there. That's Julia Chapman who gets those referrals. So yeah, just want to shout that out because they're needing folks for Rapid Exit right now.
It's only in Fort Worth, correct?
Correct. Fort Worth residents, requirements for Rapid Exit is Category 1, Category 2 homelessness. Sorry, looking at the chat here. category 1, category 2 homelessness, and they need to have income, and ideally a phone or some way to communicate with their housing case manager. And they need to be able to pay their rent very quickly once they're moved in.
Tarrant County, our homelessness prevention program that we're operating is going to be taking the last applications December the 9th.
Thank you for that. Anybody else? Delilah, I think we can reach out to you to answer the question that you have here. I still have your email, so I will go ahead and we will get that taken care of. And then
Sorry, I think I was echoing.
you were echoing, but that's okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to catch up with the chat. What is December 9th? Did you get that figured out, Sherby? What did we say was December 9th? I'm sorry.
It's the application deadline for Tarrant County eviction prevention funds.
Okay. And then we were asked, what all does the welcome kit have in it? It has a lot of different things, toilet paper, paper towels, cleaning supplies, just basic items, pots, pans, cups, silverware, just basic items that somebody would need to move into to their unit. Also, we have like rugs and towels and pillows and stuff that we can add with it. So it's just a mixture of many things. And then what is the legal aid referral process? And I think Kimberly put that in the chat as well. All right. Who is eligible for rapid rehousing or rapid housing? I have several clients received mixed answers.
So are you speaking about rapid rehousing or rapid exit?
We're currently on the streets looking to get off the streets.
Okay. So have these folks done, I guess we could back up and say, okay, so if they're on the streets and looking to get off the streets, rapid exit would be for them if, or a good idea for them if they are easily employable or have income on the way coming soon. And all they would need maybe is just help with the deposit and first month's rent, and they would be able to then continue their rental payments. So if you've identified anybody like that, that's a good fit for rapid exit. And I'm sure Julie will be happy to talk to them to get that process started. But if that's not them, then completing assessments, if diversion can't happen, completing assessments to get them into the coordinated entry system would probably be the next best step while you continue to talk about diversion and other housing resources. So hope that makes sense or helps.
Janelle put in the chat, Tarrant County is putting on multiple RFPs this week. Keep an eye out for them as they have a quick turnaround. Notice will be sent to TCHC for distribution, and you can check the county website for full RFPs. Thank you, Janelle. Does anybody else have anything to add? All right, I will stay on just in case anybody has any other further questions, but I appreciate all of your time and everything that you guys do every day to make our system work as well as it does. Make sure that you guys are taking care of yourself and stay safe out there.